Welcome to Relationship Mastery, a podcast for those who want to learn how to master the art of creating happy, healthy, and loving relationships. Please join me, Adey-Jones, and my co-host, Barry Selby, each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for a lively and informative conversation on everything to do with relationships. Welcome, everybody. We are here for another week of discussion, and we thought we'd talk about this week about it's just not a fit, and that in the context of relationships anyway. And it doesn't necessarily just mean your intimate partner. It could be a friend. It could be a co-worker. It could be your boss. It could be, and as Barry and I, as both relationship coaches and teachers, sometimes the clients. Sometimes we can have a client that's just not a fit.
Absolutely.
So to talk about, trying to shove that sort of square peg in the round hole in all of our relationships. So, so Barry, how do you feel about that?
Well, I know you brought this up last time we spoke because I had a client, or I should say, a prospective client conversation scheduled after our show, and we talked afterwards, and I said to you about how this person didn't show up, and when I told you how they filled out their form, because I have an intake form for my clients, it was clear that what they were looking for wasn't what I provided. So it was like you said to me, it's like that doesn't look like it's a good fit, and it was like it really hit me that was so true, because I know the work I do, and I know you do the same with your work, is for certain people who are on board with it. And there are people out there who will never, ever want to do the work that we invite or inquire or request of them to do. So being not just a good fit in that context happens quite often in my work. I've discovered so many times where I've been talking to somebody, there are so many reasons why we'd not be a good fit together, where there's no, I may have a wide open schedule and lots of room for clients, but I'm not going to take on anybody because it's not worth it for them or for me. So that's a key disqualifier, so to speak.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't know until you are a few seconds in, but I agree with you completely. There have been clients particularly with clients where I know I can be of service. I just know. But as you said, it's not a quick fix. It does require some really true reflection and accountability and a lot of work. It is a lot of work. Not for everybody. Some people go, oh my God, and they get it instantly. And there are other people that don't. But just because I know that I can be of service to them doesn't necessarily mean that they know that. And sometimes it's just timing. It's not a fit. They're looking for something a little quicker, a little faster, a little, as I say, that quick fix. That's why I think the whole world of the law of attraction is very popular right now, because people feel like, well, if I just imagine it, I'll have everything I want in life. And I do think that's a wonderful concept.
Yes.
Do I believe it? Obviously not.
No, definitely.
I do think it requires, I do think energy, and where your energy is and where your focus is and all of those things we've discussed many times. We feel where we place our attention. We know that if we're looking in a negative direction, looking for what's wrong, we will feel everything that's wrong, and vice versa. Right. But coming back to that, it's not a fit. I remember I heard that from my sister many, many, many years ago. And prior to that, when I used to date, I was a very cautious dater. I I was a reckless and cautious dater, if you can have the two at the same time. I was definitely attracted to very unique people, very artists, creatives. Money did not interest me in the least. It's like the more creative you were, the more and not necessarily a bad boy, but I would say that people that probably weren't a good fit. Okay, we'll just say that they weren't a good fit. And and if I sensed that they were pulling away, I often was the one that left the fort because I had such abandonment issues. It was like I was very insecure, so I would tend to end the relationship. But if I didn't see the signs and I had somebody end the relationship with me, it absolutely, it sent me into such a tailspin of I wasn't good enough. All the stuff that was wrong with me. And I
Right.
never ever looked at it as, no, it's just not a fit. It's
Yeah.
just not
Yeah.
a fit. I took it so personally, and my sister once said, "Well, it sounds like you just weren't a fit." And I was like, "That's an option. It's not a fit as an option. Doesn't mean it has to immediately go to there's something wrong with me. He didn't. He ended it because of this, 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 and this." It was so funny. It was like it was a wonderful moment. It was like a bucket of cold water thrown over you, where you wake up and go, "Oh my God, I had no idea I was looking at it through this one lens." And it changed my life. It truly did, in all areas, not just relationships, but like I said, relationships with coworkers, with the type of work I was doing, the whatever the environment. It's not a fit.
I definitely have memories of that with different careers I've had and the companies I worked at, where I look back, because those don't know me, I've had several careers before I did this one that were basically jobs. They weren't necessarily the best thing, but I definitely have experiences where I look back at those jobs and didn't think about the fact that I couldn't fit there. I just thought I just had to do it because what was available. But if I look back with honesty and with clarity, I look back and go, that was never going to be a good fit for me, no matter how long I tried pushing through. Thankfully, in admission, several other times those jobs didn't last that long anyway. But it was clear that it wouldn't have served me to stay there any longer than I did. So ultimately, it was a gift that I got out. And
Mhm.
in the area of relationship, it is oftentimes. I mean, I like to think that the um, evaluation of the connection, it can be happen fairly early on, so you know you don't want to proceed any further. But in the case where you don't know yet, and you spend time in dating and getting to know somebody and spending time with them, to discover it's not a good fit at certain points down the road can be harder because you're kind of invested in terms of time and energy as well. But you know, for the long term health and wholeness and freedom, you have to say, you know what, this doesn't work. I choose to step out of this. You
Yeah,
know, I know I've had women have me as a not as good fit, so I know very clearly it works both ways.
yeah. And there's those of us, not anymore again, but when I was younger, that
Uh,
found not a good fit a challenge. It's like I deliberately wanted not a good fit
uh,
because it was dysfunctional, it was exciting, it was, all the things that when you grow up in chaos is that that's your norm. So,
right.
um, yeah, sometimes the not a good fit was waving waving its red flags in my direction. Come towards me, come towards me. But there were always lessons learned for sure. Lessons but I wanted to list some of the things to take into consideration when you are entering into a partnership or, like I said, a relationship or a work environment, because you're going to have relationships within that work environment. It's not like or business environment. So it's not like they're not relationships, but things to look at. I just wanted to, run down a little list here of questions to ask yourself. To have almost like a checklist of, are these being met? Because if
Mhm.
we cover these, the chances of it being a good fit early on, like you said, before you've invested too much time or too much energy, is, are these, like right now I'm talking about potentially getting into another sort of business. And my first thing was, we have to meet. I have to make sure I like you as a person. I got to feel I can trust you. It's all about sensing. And then we can get into numbers and we can get into this and ideas and the whole thing. But the first thing for me, even though it's the work thing and business thing, is very much the personality, because you can't run away from that relationship you'll create.
Mhm.
So one thing to really look at is, do we have the same core values? I think values is huge. Values is huge. And it's never been huger in the US as it is right now. I mean, we are really seeing a division, but I based a lot of it on core values. Um, can you communicate well with each other? Are you safe to communicate? Is the other
Yeah.
person receptive to hearing your side, your perspective, your feelings? I mean, so that again. Do you trust the other person? Again, that comes from that shared core values. I mean, if you both believe that you are 100% in integrity and honesty and all of those things. I'm laughing now about our show last week. This is coming back in my head a bit. But
Oh yeah.
trust is huge. Do you have the same goals in life? Are you both you both see the future of either your relationship or your work relationship or whatever it is going in the same direction?
Right.
Not to say that you can always map it out exactly. Things are going to change. Roads are going to, show up along the way. But at least you're heading in the right direction together. Um, Emotional compatibility. My partner and I right now, I realize, I mean, he's a Cancer. He's so gentle and so loving and so calm. And, I'm a Capricorn, but I have a lot of Sagittarius fire in me, and I can be very fiery. And sometimes I think it's an incompatibility, but then I also look at it sometimes as having been in relationships with very fiery people too, that two very fiery people can be explosive, exciting, but explosive.
Yeah.
Um, Lack of effort, that's a huge one. One of the partners, whether again, a work situation or relationship, one person is putting in more effort than the other. And all that leads to is resentment. And I think we talked about that a few weeks ago about how resentment kills a relationship. Um, Lifestyles, if your lifestyle is similar, there's, some people are very sort of, I have a client right now that's it's just their lifestyles are different. She wants to go and eat out every night. He wants to stay home. She doesn't want to watch TV. He wants to watch TV. There's just little, they seem little, but they've become big things because they are, he's more of a homebody and she's not.
Right.
And vice versa. It's an interesting, so I think lifestyle is very important. Um, I even know clients that fight about what they watch on TV, and it's like, do you have two TVs? Do you have computers? You can watch different things, It doesn't always, I mean, it's nice to share something together, but to allow each other to have your own interests within that relationship too, I think is very important. Um, yeah, lack of chemistry, if we're talking about relationships. Um, you can admire their mind, but you might not be physically attracted to them. Or the other way around, you're physically attracted, but you're not
Mhm.
stimulated intellectually. So these are things to really weigh out, I think, in the beginning of a relationship. I mean, you don't have to sit there with your little checklist, but have them in your mind. Really be aware of them. How good a fit is this?
Well, for me, the checklist is an important piece because in a way you need to know what you're looking for in the first place. So it's good to know up front what your criteria, what your needs are, what you need to feel loved, to feel supported, to feel committed. And one of the things I know from my experience being in a relationship with partners who have desire to stay where they are energetically static, they don't want to grow or change or evolve. But that's my way of life. So be very early on, that's going to be a very clear discord and won't be a match. So yeah, on the broad strokes type of things, that the not being a fit can come down to the red flags that we have about relationship, whether they're monogamous or if they're healthy or they don't smoke or they're homebodies, all those different things that we know for ourselves. We need to know what they are so we can honor those and choose that in a partnership. So that's a upfront sort of list. But at the same time, some of the um, more subtle, more hidden things that may not have been reviewed up front can be things you need to discover along the way where you don't realize you're not a fit until a few months into the relationship, which is why working for companies can happen like that, where you go for a job, it looks really glamorous on the outside, but 3 or 4 months into the job, you start realizing how mundane or how frustrating or how maybe different the viewpoints of the company are to your own, so you don't want to be there anymore. So, and same is true in relationships, romantic ones, that to navigate those early criteria, which are very clear, like there's 5 or 10 absolute clear red flag that doesn't work. No point going to relationship. But there may be 15 or 20 subtle ones that you don't realize you have awareness on until you're in the relationship. And so, hang on, that's missing, or that's not what I want. And so, having integrity to trust what's inside rather than trying to convince yourself to stay beyond what works is one of the things that makes it easier or harder to be in a relationship, because sometimes people will stay in the relationship because now they're in it, because they'd rather put up with what they have than hold out for what they really want.
Yeah.
And so they won't choose to leave. So there's lots of different criteria in this.
There are, and as we're talking, as I'm hearing you talk there, I'm thinking about a couple of relationships. I know that life circumstances changed, and they suddenly saw their partner very differently. And I know that happened certainly, 8 years ago. There were couples that I know that were together prior to that,
Mhm.
and they knew they had slightly different beliefs, political beliefs, but I think
Yeah.
it definitely became more polarized 8 years ago. And I saw a few relationships really come apart over that, over politics. And I know for me, I really tried to maintain, to not have a political stance because I was a coach, and what you want to appeal to as many people as you can and not have that interfere. But I also noticed that I had a couple of clients where politics was the main, believe it or not, what they wanted to bring up each one of our sessions. And I noticed, and I had to be in integrity, that it was easier for me when the client wanted to talk about politics, that again, you don't engage too much, but you know that you have shared values along that line. And there were clients that were clearly not in alignment with how I felt. And
Mhm.
I felt out of integrity. I did, because I didn't feel that I was being true to myself. I mean, I think I did a good job about showing up neutrally, but at a cost to myself. I noticed that. And I went, I'd rather be very clear about who I am up front, so that if people are coming to me, they're coming for a specific thing. They're not coming to talk about politics. Um, and if they are coming to talk about politics, they know that I might not be the best person for them to come and talk to that about. So it
Mhm.
became very clear that the more authentic I am about who I am up front, and warts and all, and people know who I am, and they know whether they want to be in whether it's a coaching relationship or a relationship or a business partnership with me. There's no surprises.
Yeah. It's one of those things, is that some people are caught up between having a relationship of any sort versus staying alone or being alone. And so the challenge of being in a relationship where the big reveal happens later on. We've been there for a while and it's been great and wonderful. And suddenly you discover, oh my God, this is their natural style. Well, this is what they are, and I just can't be with it. And then according to the place, well, I've already been here this long, I might as well stick it out, versus I'd rather be alone. Or they so don't want to be alone that they'll stay in the relationship. There's sometimes people do things out of a desire to be opposite what they don't want. It's almost like, I don't want this, so I'll do this instead, rather than I choose this intentionally. And so this fit piece is such a key, because so many people don't necessarily realize that they stayed past the point where they realize that they want to fit, and they say, I can put up with it because I'm already here, and they make do with it.
Mhm.
And I took in my book, I talk about um, the rubber band experience in relationships, where basically relationships change over time. It's almost natural; they have to. So we get older, we mature, we change, whatever happens, and that relationship has tension on it. And if the relationship gets too much tension because one person changes, the person doesn't, basically it's likely that relationship is going to end, because either the person who didn't change catches up and goes, I want to change as well, or the person who did change says, I'm going to go back to the relationship because it's more important to be with that person than to grow or to change or whatever it was. Or basically the relationship is going to end and they're going to break apart, because that fit is almost forcing the issue, because you don't fit there together. And so you end up being basically forced out of the relationship ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely, I think we can. I mean, there's phases in that. You're talking about, the first few months where people do have a mask on. So that's why, I mean,
Right.
when I hear, oh, love at first sight, or we got married after a month or whatever, I'm like, ah. Sometimes
Yep.
it works out. Sometimes it works. I mean, especially in older generations, you'll often hear, oh, my grandparents only met, they dated for a couple of months and got married.
Mhm.
Well, that was a different generation too. But I really do believe that when we first meet somebody, we do have, not in a malicious way, but we do have a social mask that we present in the beginning. Then after about 3, 4 months, we start to relax into, oh, true selves, and that's where, you know, the patterns are revealed there as to who we truly are. I think the sooner the better that we can do that. I remember when I was younger, I used to I used to deliberately let them see the worst part of me very early on to see whether they could handle it or not. You know, it was like I'm, you know, it's like if this is as bad as I can get, do you still like me, sort of thing. It was like it was a test, and then I could relax into the relationship. It wasn't the sort of, oh, I must hide this part of myself. It's like, this side's coming out now. You're going to see who you're dealing with. Um, so there's that aspect. But
Yeah.
like you said, I think I do know or have, you know, through clients or friends, relationships where, from my perspective, due to the amount of complaining that is going on, that it
Mhm.
is so clearly not a fit. It's, you know, objectively, I can go, oh my God, that I know there's some good things, but if you are spending 95% of your time complaining about this person, it's not a good fit. And,
Great. Yeah.
you know, to really ask yourself if you, I mean, I can get a little niggly and I can right myself in a second because I'll go, whoa, again, what we focus on is what we feel. Now, if I'm going to focus on the niggly little tiny stupid thing that my partner did, I'm going to feel that. But the second I go, hang on a minute, this is like 2% of the relationship, and all of this is like, you know, I can snap out of it really quickly and just say, this is just, it's not about it not being a fit. I'm being niggly and placing my attention on this tiny little thing that's irritating to me. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But
Obviously, unless you're the princess and the pea.
which was one of my favorite stories growing up. I
Uh-huh.
oh, it's, knowing what our favorite story was growing up was a good indication of your baseline, how you operate in life. Yeah, it's, and again, going back to that, it's not a fit is not an indictment that you are bad or wrong or insufficient or not good enough. It's not that. It's just
Mhm.
the qualities are not a good fit. That's all it is. And waiting for somebody that you're more compatible with, that you share more values with, that you have the same vision and that you like. And so I always say to people, um, especially living in California, and I can add one to that now. I used to say, you know, we live in earthquake country. Who do you want to wake up in the rubble with? Do you like them enough when all the
Mm.
things are taken? Who
Yeah.
do you want to be in that rubble with? Somebody that's got your back, somebody that is kind and caring and loving. Now I can add a fire to that. Who do you want
I
to
was
be
gonna say,
when you,
especially the past 6 months. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Who do you want to be as you battle that overcoming that absolute devastation? And
Yeah.
if they are somebody that you can lean on each other during those times of hardship, that you really know has your back. What's the saying? You know, I want to be in a foxhole with you. It's that.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that's what we need to be looking at.
That's one of the things that I think a lot of people don't do is like you say about, hold out and don't jump into relationships. So many people I think are fixated on being in relationship. Like it's almost like their life isn't working unless they're in relationship. Well, the truth is many people in relationship that they're probably better off if they weren't in the first place. So to be willing to stay alone, and I mean my work here is all about being single and about how to be healthy and being single. But most people aren't choosing that. They're always looking for love. I mean, Valentine's Day, that sort of thing. Those temptations or those um, marketing models to say, you need to be in love. You use the dating apps and do the swiping and all these other things. The reality is, there's nothing wrong with being alone,
Yeah,
but most people are afraid to admit that. And so, learning how to be a good partner with yourself, just being in your own space and enjoying who you are, is one of the biggest challenges a lot of people face. They're not willing to look at themselves in the mirror honestly and authentically, unless they look through the lens. And so, choosing a relationship that is really a good fit is not something that's necessarily the highest priority. And frankly, I talk about this with the piece about you said about the earthquakes and the fires, watching people's relationships that are stronger now having lost everything than they were before when they had everything is a testament to how deep the love can go and how important it is that it transcends physical accoutrements and accessories and all those different things. So I personally think that it's such a key to really know what it is you want, but also to know what you choose for yourself, and how you can be your own best partner in the first place, independent of anybody else.
Well, I think what you're talking about, Barry, is it's fundamental regardless. Whether
Yes.
yeah, whether it's that you are seeing the value of being alone, which has incredible values to it, and appreciating it and loving that lifestyle of
Hmm.
not being in an intimate relationship. Of course, you're in constant relationships with your friends and your community and your church and all these other things, but consciously staying out of a an intimate relationship because simply because you haven't met that good fit yet is wonderful, but also because you're choosing to be there because it's a wonderful way to live a life. I mean,
Hmm.
I have a sister that's been alone for many, many years, and she has an incredible life. She has beautiful friends, beautiful children. She just doesn't feel the need for she's had relationships. Obviously, she's had quite a few. But the last 15 years, she hasn't, and she's very happy without one.
Hmm.
Um, but regardless if you want to be in a relationship or not, you have to be okay being alone. Because as you
Yes.
said, if you are being driven by the fear of being alone or the fear of spending too much time with yourself, then you are going to make some choices out of a very dysfunctional place. You're going to choose your partner based on need, not want,
Right.
and that can be I don't see any relationship being successful when that is the feeling, because the other person knows it's not about them. It's your warm body to occupy space next to somebody that doesn't like being alone. Who wants to feel that? Nobody wants to feel that. I certainly don't.
And there were some people that feels like an improvement of what they're currently dealing with. But again, like you said, and I said, having a healthy relationship with yourself where you enjoy your own company is actually the priority ultimately anyway, because then you can, first of all, then you have a better relationship with yourself. But secondly, it makes you a better partner with somebody else too. So
Absolutely.
look on the one with yourself.
Yeah. It's a compliment to the other person that you want to be with them because you're so secure on your own. It's like, wow, you really add value to my life. My life is
Yes.
so great, and you're adding value. I mean,
Mm.
wow, what a compliment that is, rather than don't leave me, I can't be alone.
That's all. Yeah, back to the attachment styles, with being the anxious and the secure. So yeah, absolutely, that's a key one.
Yeah. Well, so yeah, as Barry said, just have that checklist. Make sure that your core values, that you have trust, that you like the other person,
Mhm.
that you're both on the same path, you're both putting in as much effort. All these things are really important before getting into a relationship. Actually, first, have them be
Absolutely.
who you are and how you show up in every engagement you have, rather than meeting somebody and then sitting there going, okay, are you matching this? Are you matching that? Are you matching that? Just know who they are, having them integrated into your being. This is what I require in my life to
Yeah.
have a close connection with another person.
Get clear before you start. Absolutely, the best way of doing it.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you again, Barry, and we will see everyone next week.
See you next week. Take care.
Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.
We trust you enjoyed this episode and invite you to share this with your friends and loved ones. In fact, please subscribe to our Relationship Mastery podcast. That way you'll get each new episode fresh and shiny as soon as it is released. We'd love to hear from you as well. So go ahead and enter your questions and comments at relationshipmastery.show. Take good care. We will connect with you in our next episode of Relationship Mastery.